The Minecraft 1.21 update, otherwise known as the Tricky Trials update, has been released. Compared to 1.20, this update has been largely seen as being far more exciting, and I wholeheartedly agree. There have been so many great additions like the brand new trial chamber, a new weapon in the form of the Mace, and most importantly, the scraped Pottery sherd. But with so many great additions, some are bound to be worse than others. So today, I thought it'd be fun to rank every new addition in the Tricky Trials update from the worst to the best. Now how exactly am I going to be ranking these? Well, if you saw my 1.20 version of this video from last year, it'll be the same criteria. This will purely be judging the features based on Java survival mode. Any new additions that only pertain to creative mode and whatnot will not be on this list. This also isn't necessarily a usefulness ranking. That's absolutely a major factor, but really these are just additions I like the best and believe will change how I play the game the most. For example, there's a lot of features that are purely decorative, but since I like building, I'll rank them based on how useful I think they'll be for that. Additionally, to keep this video understandable, we'll be putting items into groups for the ranking. So sorry if you wanted to see how the flow armor trim stacks up against the polished Tuff stairs, you'll have to settle for how the armor trims as a whole stack up against all the Tuff blocks. With that being said, for some of the mini groups, I'll do mini rankings within their segment. For example, this update adds 20 new paintings, and while they'll all take up one spot on the official list, I'll also rank which paintings are my favorite when I get there. And also don't worry, I'll make it as clear as possible what blocks are in what group. Now I do have one last thing I want to say before we start, because if I don't, I'll get a billion nerds in the comments going, the new wolves were added in 1.20.5. Yeah, so I'm including the wolf and armadillo stuff just because they came after my 1.20 video. With all that being said, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and let's jump right in. Now, unlike 1.20 with its netherite upgrade template, there's not really a clear feature that belongs in last place. This is what I would have said 3 days ago, but then pre-release 4 happened, so 29, the fire and blast protection nerf. 28, Potion of Wind Charge. Alright, this is the first real addition for the list. This spot includes the potion and all of its variants like splash potions, lingering potions, arrows, etc. Of the 4 potions added this update, this is easily the worst because it genuinely does basically nothing. When something is affected by this, it'll cause a small wind charge to appear whenever it dies. That's it. I really don't understand what the point of this potion is. All 4 of the new potions can spawn in trial chambers and affect the mobs inside, so in theory, they should all make it somewhat harder. While I could definitely see the other 3 doing that, this is a minor inconvenience at most. I definitely don't see any good reason to ever brew this potion, which is done with the breeze rod. Now, maybe in the future someone could shock me with something, but for now, I don't see this being helpful at all. If you affect a bunch of mobs at once though, you go flying. 27, Witches drop more redstone. Alright, this change is useful, but just super tiny, so it has to place low. Instead of the chance to drop 0 to 2 redstone dust they had before, now witches always drop 4 to 8 dust. Mojang actually said this is to make witch farms more viable, which I think is pretty interesting. I never really thought they'd care about that. Like I said, it's a small change, but I think it's a positive one. 26, Ender Pearl through portals. Now you can throw Ender Pearls through portals and it'll teleport you across dimensions. That's a pretty cute change, and I've already seen some interesting things with it, like chaining several portals together for longer pearl throws, and even ender pearl stasis chambers across dimensions. Now this is definitely on the more niche side, and I wouldn't be surprised if I basically never use it, but I could certainly see some more technical players coming up with some good stuff here. While on the topic of going across dimensions, 25, riding entities through portals. Previously, if you wanted to subject your horse to hell, you'd have to get off of it first and then go into the portal after it. However, Mojang made it so players can now ride things like horses, minecarts, and striders straight on through portals. It's also really neat because this makes you teleport instantly without having to sit through the portal animation. This just makes life so much easier for anyone who wants to use rideable mobs. I also imagine it'll be helpful for transporting mobs in general, since you could just ride in a boat with the mob without stopping. Maybe someone could even set up a roller coaster that goes across dimensions. I think that'd be pretty cool. 24, Trial Chamber Explorer map. I'm really happy they decided to add this. You'll get it from cartographer villagers just like the Ocean and Woodland Explorer maps. It'll point to the nearest trial chamber, which is of course the main highlight of this update that we'll see much later on in the list. I'm just happy there's a way to make finding these less annoying, especially since they usually can't be seen from the surface due to being underground structures. Now, if only a certain other underground structure had a map. Hint, hint. I can't really place this high up since it's just a map, but I will definitely be using this. 23, Infested Potion. When I first heard about this, I thought it was going to be just as pointless as the Wind Charge one. Anything affected by this will have a 5% chance to spawn a silverfish whenever they get hit. To brew this, you only need to use stone. On the surface, this seems really pointless, but there are actually a few things going for it. For starters, this does a better job adding some challenge to the trial chambers, even if it is still a pretty small inconvenience. As it turns out though, there is a pretty solid use someone found for this, which basically saved my opinion on this effect. It does rely on one of the other new potions though, so to keep you all in suspense, I'm gonna leave this one off on a cliffhanger. Watch till the end of the video to find out. 22, the Bog. This is a new mob which is a reskin of the skeleton. I've mentioned this a few times, but I really like when they add alternate versions of mobs like this for certain biomes or structures, as it makes the world feel more diverse. Like many other things this update, the Bog are a special skeleton variant for the trial chamber, however they can also spawn in swamp biomes. What makes the Bog special are 2 things. First, it'll shoot out poisoned arrows, just making them a bit more deadly. That also means they'll drop poison arrows when killed, like how strays drop slowness arrows. The second thing that makes them unique is that you can actually shear them to get mushrooms off their head. This only works once per bog, but it's cute that they added this. Bro, I wouldn't eat that. For the most part, this mob is just a small aesthetic thing, but I can appreciate that. 21, new pottery sherds. You know what, before we continue this segment, yes, these are called sherds, not shards. You all better not spam saying I'm wrong when I'm right again. Anyway, I'm really happy they're continuing to expand on this feature for future updates, because it has a lot of untapped potential. This update brings 3 sherds you can find in the trial chamber, and I think that now means it's time for our first mini ranking. Which of these sherds do I think is the best? Well, starting with the worst, we have scrape, which just features an axe. Personally, I prefer the other tool-based pottery sherds, but it's nice to have an axe join the collection. Next up, we have guster, which depicts a breeze. I actually really like how this one looks, and I think the design could easily work outside of the context of the trial chamber just due to the shape. But my favorite easily is flow. I think swirls are really cool, so I was bound to be a fan of this one. 20, new armor trims. This is another extended 1.20 feature, and I'm really happy they're doing this because the ideas for sherds and trims really do have so many possibilities. They do have to be lower on the list since they are just aesthetic things, of course, but I'm happy to see them. This time we got 2 new trims, which should make me consider putting them below the sherds, but I think both of the trims here are fantastic. I honestly had a hard time determining which is better, but I think if I had the choice, I'd rather wear bolt, but I think flow is great too. I still think silence is my favorite armor trim overall, but these two are definitely among my favorites as well. 19, new banner patterns. This isn't a 1.20 feature, but it definitely fits the extended aesthetic theme. Once again, these are exclusively found in trial chambers, and I put them as my favorite for this trilogy because banners have more customization. The 2 here follow the same ranking as my pottery sherds, being guster and then flow. I'm really looking forward to see what designs come from these 2 patterns because any new pattern is bound to make there be a ton of new possibilities. 18, potion of weaving. Here we have the 3rd potion, which I just think is slightly worse than the final one, though I can understand why someone would like this more. Upon death, any mob that's affected by this will place down a cobweb nearby. That is a really interesting effect. Not only is it extremely unique, being the only potion to place something, but I think it succeeds at everything it was trying to do. Being another effect that spawns in the trial chambers, I think it's a fairly effective inconvenience as it can get the player stuck in place while mobs attack them. More importantly though, the fact that this spawns cobwebs means that they're finally a renewable resource. Previously they were finite since you could only find them in structures, but now you can use cobwebs to brew this potion and then collect more webs. This is great for anyone who uses cobwebs for decoration, or in rare cases even certain contraptions to slow down mobs or other entities. Now I usually don't feel I'm ever short on cobwebs, as 1 mineshaft is usually enough for a whole world for me, but this is definitely great for people who use them a lot, and it makes preserving every last cobweb a lot less stressful since I can always get more. 17, potion of oozing. Of the brand new potions, I definitely think this one is my favorite. Whenever an affected mob dies, they'll spawn in a few slimes. That obviously fits well with making the trial chamber more dangerous as it'll cause more mobs to spawn, but this potion is very practical outside the structure as well. It only takes 1 slime block to brew 3 potions, and combined with the looting sword, that can easily be enough to raise your slime ball count. Now first, you may think this is just a more inefficient way to farm slime balls. However, someone actually created a farm design using this that makes it much faster. It does have the downside of requiring us to brew potions, but the results are more than worth it. The reason this farm works is thanks to the infested potion. We finally made it to this segment. Essentially, you splash a ton of allays with the infested potion, and then you drown them. You monster. Since allays heal faster than they drown, they'll be able to take as much damage as they want. That means we'll be able to spawn in a ton of silverfish, and once they're all spawned in, we can splash them with an oozing potion and then watch as hundreds of slimes get spawned and killed in an instant. This produces a lot of slime balls, and this is just for 1 of each potion. I think it's safe to say that makes oozing pretty helpful, and I think it might just be the farm I build in my worlds. Also sort of unrelated to this segment, but I had a bit of a question for you all. So obviously I already made an all potions ranking, and I was kind of wondering how long you all think I should go between remaking these Minecraft rankings. I don't want to flood you all with similar videos over and over, so my current thought is 2 years between remakes as long as there have been significant new additions. Let me know in the comments if that works for you guys. 16, leads working on boats. Now just hearing that, you may think that's one of the really small changes that would belong near the bottom with stuff like witches dropping more redstone. However, I think this change is super helpful. Since almost every mob in the game can go in boats, this essentially lets you attach a lead to any mob, making transport much easier. This is especially helpful in the case of villagers, since it'll make moving them so much faster. You can even fly with an elytra to move them now, which obviously saves a ton of time. So even though on the surface this is just a small change, I predict that it will be extremely helpful in the future. 15, Armadillo. In case one of you bozos skipped the intro, yes, I'm including the 1.20.5 features. This was our 2023 mob boat winner, and so far I'd say might just be the best one we've gotten. I still would have preferred the crab, but I won't complain too much about what we got here. The Armadillo will be able to spawn in savanna biomes, and they add a really nice ambience to it. It's especially cute how they roll up into a ball whenever you spook them, kind of like how you guys react whenever I put a jump scare in my videos. Yeah. Now, if they were just ambience, people would not be fans, so what could they be used for? Well, they could be used to scare off spiders, which has potential for faster spider farms. But the real reason they're good is because you can brush them to get armadillo scutes. Once you obtain 6 of them, you're able to craft 14 wolf armor. This is a feature people have been asking for a long time. People love their wolves, so the fact that they die so easily is pretty sad. The wolf armor significantly helps though, as it prevents all damage taken until it's broken, which is extremely helpful. Okay, well, potions can break through it, but just don't poison your dog, you weirdo. The wolf armor is also really neat because you can dye it for different colors. This actually takes the leather armor approach where you can combine dyes to get different shades. They really went above and beyond here, and I appreciate that a lot. I know my brother plans on using this feature to create a wolf army. He's already building one as we speak. For me personally though, I don't like bringing my wolves into danger at all, so I likely won't use the wolf armor too much. Still, I have to recognize that this is a great feature that people have been wanting for ages. 13 new paintings. This is a complete surprise as we haven't gotten a new painting added to the game since the weather painting in 1.4.2, which was over 11 years ago. Okay, well that's not true. There are these 4 hidden paintings, but they're still not possible to get in survival. Mojang, please. When we first found out we'd be getting new paintings, we only saw 5 of them from a brand new artist, Sarah Boving. That was already exciting by itself. I love being able to decorate walls with paintings, and having more options is always fantastic. But then, for Minecraft's 15-year anniversary, they revealed that we're going to be getting 15 more paintings on top of the 5 we just saw. Also, it's from the same artist of the original paintings, Christopher Zetterstrand. Some of these paintings even come in sizes we've never had before, like 3x3 or 3x4. The sheer amount of new paintings here really boosted this in the ranking, and I hope this means we'll be getting more in the future, similar to how we've been getting new music discs almost every update. But with there being 20 paintings, some are bound to be worse than others, so I think it's about time we rapid fire through my personal rankings of them. I'm not really going to explain my choices so we can keep this video moving, and just because this ranking was really hard. 20 Humble, 19 Bouquet, 18 Backyard, 17 Cave Bird, 16 Owl Lemons, 15 Finding, 14 Sunflowers, 13 Baroque, 12 Fern, 11 Changing, 10 End Boss, 9 Orb, 8 Prairie Ride, 7 Tides, 6 Low Mist, 5 Pond, 4 Passage, 3 Meditative, 2 Khotan, and finally 1 Unpacked, which is definitely my favorite as it's a reference to the infamous pack.png screenshot used across the game. I hope they make a Herobrine painting. 12 Vault and Trial Spawner. These two were really hard to place. I wanted them to be separate from the structure itself, but at the moment they can't really be used outside of the structure. The reason I wanted to separate them is because I feel like they have a lot of potential, which I actually made a video about before. The Trial Spawner will spawn in a certain amount of mobs, and once they've all been defeated, it will reward the player with an item. In the Trial Chambers, this can be a lot of things, but the main item you'll want are the Trial Key. This lets you open the vault, which essentially works like a chest, giving you a ton of items. This is the place where you'll get a lot of the structure's exclusive stuff like the armor trims and heavy core. What makes the vault unique beside needing a key is the fact that it can be looted by an infinite number of players. So while I can only open it once, my friend could come in after me and open the vault again to get the same items. That makes the Trial Chambers so much better for multiplayer, and I really think they should use vaults in other structures too. This would make it so everyone could get an Elytra and Netherite upgrade template. If this was included in other structures, this legitimately might have made the top 3 of the list, but for just being in the Trial Chambers, I'll place these both here for now. 11 The Ominous Bottle. This is another item with high potential, but I think they've done a better job utilizing it so far in this update. You can get this by either killing a pillager patrol captain or by a trial spawner. When you drink this, you'll receive the Bad Omen effect. Now this might just seem like an annoying extra step, but as someone who often has villagers around their base, this is a lifesaver. Patrols were always so annoying because we couldn't kill the captain normally, as then we'd cause a raid to spawn in our base. And that especially doesn't help in multiplayer when other people walk into your base with the effect without thinking. With the addition of the bottle though, now I can kill them whenever I want to and then save the Bad Omen for when I do feel like doing a raid. That is a fantastic quality of life change, and I am aware it makes raid farms way worse, but I think that's a fair enough thing to nerf honestly. That's not the end of the Ominous Bottle though, as using it inside a trial chamber gives you the new Trial Omen effect. This causes the structure to actually get a bit harder, having the trial spawner spawn more mobs and even some of the potion effects I mentioned before. This is worth it though because you get much better items from the spawner, most importantly being the Ominous Trial Key. This lets you open the Ominous Vaults, which not only give you better items, but some of the exclusives as well. If you want the Flow Armor Trim, Flow Banner Pattern, Creator Music Disc, or the Heavy Core, you'll have to be using an Ominous Key. I think that is a really cool idea, and I'm certainly looking forward to trying my hand at surviving one of these challenges this update. 10 Breeze and Breeze Rod. For my technically favorite new mod this update, we have the really fun wind-based version of the Blaze. At the moment, it's exclusive to the Trial Chamber, where it will sometimes spawn from the Trial Spawners. Fighting this guy is really fun as it works so differently from anything else. Not only will it be able to hop around like crazy, but its main form of attack are wind charges, which are able to harshly push anyone around that gets hit by them. They're not hard to defeat or anything, but the unique way you have to fight them makes them an enjoyable inclusion for me. Plus, I also really like their design. A blue sort of blaze mixed with a tornado is such a cool concept. When killed, this guy will drop a breeze rod, which is helpful for a few different things. It's a requirement to make the new Mace item, and it's used to brew the legendary wind charge potion. But I think the thing people will craft the most with it is 9 the Wind Charge. This is a super unique item. You can use this in a number of different ways, the most obvious of which just being a projectile. This will fly out in front of you and push off anything it hits. You can also put these in a dispenser to get the same effect, just like fire charges. Wind charges also have the unique property to activate redstone components, which could actually allow you to activate something from a large distance. The main place people will want to use this though is actually on themselves. If you throw a wind charge downward, you'll be able to leap significantly higher up into the air. Not only is that really fun, but in some cases it can even be practical. I'm not exactly sure how practical it'll end up being, but I know I'm super excited to mess around with this. 8. The Mace, Heavy Core, and Enchantments. I decided to combine all of these together here because it really didn't make much sense to separate them out. The Heavy Core is an item exclusive to the Ominous Vault of the Trial Chamber. You can place it as a block, but it's really not what it's good for. The main reason you'll want this is to craft the brand new weapon, the Mace. Now at first this may just seem like an okay weapon, but this has an incredibly unique mechanic behind it. The amount of damage it does actually depends on the distance you fall before hitting the mob. That means this can deal an insane amount if you know how to use it right. What's also good is you won't take any fall damage so long as you hit something on the way down. I predict this will lead to a lot of really funny accidental deaths. For getting extra height, you can easily use the wind charges, which will let you get a bigger leap and thus deal more damage. If you want to pillar up, that might just be even better, and depending on the height, you can easily one-shot any mob in the game, including stuff like the Warden. Bet he never saw that coming, because he's blind. Along with the Mace, it also got 3 brand new enchantments. My least favorite is definitely Breach, as it just minimizes the effect of armor, which is really specific. Density, on the other hand, is a must-have, as it's basically just sharpness for the Mace, allowing it to deal much more damage. But easily my favorite new enchantment is Wind Charge. Now whenever you hit something with the Mace, you'll go flying up into the air, 21 blocks at level 3 to be exact. This obviously works extremely well with the Mace, as it'll boost its damage significantly. And also, this enchantment is just really fun. You do take a lot of fall damage using it, but I am definitely looking forward to trying it out. Now I do also want to say that I doubt this will completely replace the sword for me, but having more weapons is nice for the sake of options. 7 new wolf variants. I hope I don't get executed for putting this so high up. So while I may not be the biggest user of wolf armor, I know for a fact that I'll be trying to collect as many of these new wolf variants as I can. I was genuinely not expecting them to add new looks for wolves ever, so seeing 8 new variants was a fantastic surprise. Each of them spawn in different biomes, which will of course make some of the wolves rarer than others. But I think you all know what time it is. Time for another mini ranking of all the new wolf skins. My least favorite is 8, Spotted. They're found in Savannah Plateau, and I just think the colors are a bit messy. 7, Striped. They're found in Wooded Badlands, and while I like the colors, I don't love the big stripe across the back. 6, Snowy. They're found in groves, and while I do like them, they are just a bit too similar to the normal wolf. 5, Chestnut. They're found in old growth spruce taigas, and I'm definitely at the point where I like all the designs, so there's really no point of me adding much more commentary for the rest of the entries. 4, Woods, which are found in forests. 3, Rusty, which are found in sparse jungles. 2, Ashen, which are found in snowy taigas. And finally 1, Black, which are found in old growth pine taigas. I love that they really decided to go above and beyond with the wolves this update. Sure, this is technically just an aesthetic tweak, but it's one I've been really wanting for a long time. I can't wait to get all the wolves and complete the wolf pack advancement. 6, new music discs. Okay, normally I would put these much lower on the list. I mean, we can see that's exactly what I did for Relic in 1.20, giving it 15th out of 22 features. Thing is though, this update brought with it 3 new record discs. All of them are currently found in the Trial Chamber, though in different ways from one another. First, let's start with my least favorite of the bunch being Creator. Music box, Creator music box. To get this, it can be found in the pots lining the Trial Chamber hallways, and even though it is my least favorite this update, I still think it's neat. 2 of the discs in this update are actually the same song but played differently, which is a really cool concept, and I like how the 2 discs are the 2 copper colors to show that. The music box version is cool, even if I don't really see myself listening to it much. It reminds me of the puppet from FNAF. Since I don't know how to talk about music very well for a whole video, I'm gonna start including my music disc tier list in these update videos, so here's where I'd place Creator music box. I will not be taking any questions on the rest of the list. As for my second favorite disc, we have Precipice, and this is an absolute banger. I'll be playing it in the Trial Chamber segment, so you can look forward to it there, and it is a super great fast-paced song. It can be found in the regular vault and Trial Chambers. I almost feel bad for it because it's so good that I don't want it to be overshadowed, and I still think it absolutely deserves to place an A tier of the music disc tier list. But there's one music disc I think is a bit better. It's time for Creator. This is the actual reason music discs are placed so high this update. Creator is an absolute masterpiece. I kid you not, I have listened to this song every day since it was first announced. I highly recommend you all go listen to it outside of just this segment because me yapping over it does not do it justice. It sounds so unique from any other song in Minecraft and it's absolutely jaw-dropping. I haven't fallen in love with the record disc like this since Pigstep, and to be honest, I think this one got me even more. I mean, I've used it in every single video since it's been announced at least once. Except for the one on Mario Kart Yoshi tracks, is a stupid video anyway. But I think this song is the thing that has stuck with me from this update the most. Obviously, it doesn't really change gameplay, so it's hard to put it at number 1, but I think Creator might just be the thing I've enjoyed the most from this update so far. So for that, I think I'm just going to put this as my favorite record disc in the game. It's that good. I cannot wait to try and get this from an Ominous Vault. Now 1.21 added 2 new sets of building blocks that feature prominently in the Trial Chambers. Both sets are about equal, so you could really go either way on which is better, but for me, I'm gonna go 5 new Tuff blocks. Now if you remember my Minecraft nitpicks video, video from over a year ago now, one of my main points is that I thought they should add new variants for Tuff. We've had this block ever since 1.17 and it's always been just an annoying inventory filler, but now it's actually a really good building block due to just how many variations it was given here. There are now slabs, stairs, and walls for the default block, but you can also turn Tuff into Tuff bricks or polished Tuff. Both of these blocks also get slab, stair, and wall variants, and I really like how both of them look. Sure, they are kind of similar to stone bricks and polished andesite, but the shade is definitely different enough to make Tuff worthwhile. I think my favorite Tuff blocks though would have to come in the form of chiseled Tuff and chiseled Tuff bricks. These both have really unique and cool looking designs on them. Chiseled Tuff have these really cool looking wind swirls that I could definitely see myself using in the future. Chiseled Tuff bricks though might just be my single favorite looking block this update. The side has this really nice design that I think will look great lining the bottom of builds. The top and bottom also get a completely different design, which I think will be very helpful. So overall, they did a fantastic job with these, and I'm happy to say that Tuff finally was a good addition to the game. Only took 4 years, but we got there. 4 new copper blocks. I think the copper though is just able to beat out the Tuff for me. I might change my mind on this later, but I think copper gets to be in the lead because the block types added here are more unique. We of course had a bunch of copper blocks before, but now we also get chiseled copper, which will be good to add some more detail to any copper related build. Copper grates also look great. I'm sorry. They let you see through them, and they have this really unique look from basically anything else we have in the game at the moment. I definitely foresee myself using these a decent amount in the future. Finally, copper doors and copper trapdoors are a fantastic addition. Not only do they look good for their intended purpose, but having trapdoors is always nice to add more depth and detail to builds. And also for each of these block variants I just mentioned, you have to remember that we're also getting them in 4 different colors due to the different states of oxidization. This all makes building with copper so much easier, and I'm really excited to get started in building steam gardens for Mario Odyssey with all of this in my survival server. Even outside of copper builds, I think stuff like the grates and trapdoors will be extraordinarily helpful. I'm happy they're continuing to make copper more useful so I could justify collecting it more. Now you may have noticed that I didn't include one of the new copper blocks in the last segment. Well, that's because I think it's different enough to deserve its own placement. 3. The copper bowl. I'm always a fan of getting new lighting blocks, and this might just be one of the best we've ever gotten. While the crafting recipe is surprisingly expensive, requiring 3 copper blocks, redstone dust, and a blaze rod for 4, I think it's more than worth it. First off, it looks fantastic, and I can easily see it working in a variety of different builds. That's also helped by the fact that it comes in all 4 copper colors, and it's really cool how the more oxidized it is, the less light it gives out. What really puts it above the other copper blocks though is the fact that it actually has some pretty valuable redstone functionality. The way the block works is that it will stay off until it receives a redstone signal. Unlike a redstone lamp that turns off when that signal goes away, the copper bulb will actually stay turned on. Not only does that make it so much easier to build with, but you can also use this in redstone as a T flip-flop. Since you're able to put on a comparator to detect if it's on or not, this could be helpful in numerous contraptions. People that do redstone will recognize how useful this is, but it's kind of hard for me to explain. I know I've used it to divide poppies dropped by iron golems into becoming red dye or bone meal, since the copper bulb could switch which hoppers are turned on. I'm really excited to see how this is used to make redstone more compact in the future, but even outside of that, I think people who just enjoy building will also recognize that this is a fantastic inclusion. 2. The trial chambers. Alright, it's about time we got to the update's main new feature. A majority of what we've seen throughout this video all ties back into this structure in some way. These are massive underground dungeons which are filled to the brim with several trial spawners and vaults. Your goal for the structure is to defeat all of the trial spawners so you can unlock all of the different vaults. This is a ton of fun because they did a great job making these feel massive and very different from one another. There are so many different rooms in these structures that almost every time you find one, you'll be surprised by a new room you haven't seen before. There's also a high variety in the mobs the trial spawners can spawn in. Of course, we know about the exclusive mob the Breeze, but there are also trial spawners for slimes, zombies, baby zombies, husks, skeletons, bogs, strays, spiders, cave spiders, and silverfish. Each spawner also has blocks around it to indicate what mob will spawn, which is nice. This large variety of different mobs makes raiding these structures so much fun. Of course, that's also helped by the fact that these structures have a ton of good loot. Not only can you get diamond gear, enchanted golden apples, and so on, but there are also a ton of exclusive things I mentioned throughout this video. New pottery sherds, armor trims, banner patterns, music discs, and the mace can only be found here. I also really appreciate how the structure makes getting certain non-exclusive items much easier. The new Tuff and copper blocks are what the structure is comprised of, which both look fantastic and make this an easy source to get more of them. The trident has also been made one of the items you can get from the vault, and looking back at my nitpicks video again, I said the tridents were way too annoying to get, and the trial chambers fixed that completely. Add on that these structures were made with multiplayer in mind, allowing players to all raid vaults and scaling the difficulty of spawners based on the player count. Plus there's even a hard mode with Bad Omen. Seriously, what's not to love? They absolutely nailed the structure, and I can't wait to remake my structure ranking someday to see how well this places. But somehow, there's one feature this update added that's even better. Funnily enough, it's one of the very few to have nothing to do with the trial chamber whatsoever. This new block is one of the biggest and most important additions to the game in a very long time, and while it has been heavily heavily requested, I never thought they would do it. 1. The crafter. This redstone component is able to automatically craft things. You can place items into the crafter with the hopper, and then by giving it a redstone signal, it'll spit out what it's created. This is absolutely game changing. Crafting was one of the few things that we could not automate in this game, as it always required some sort of player input, but now we could just use this block. I'm sure to a lot of people who don't do redstone, this may not be the craziest block in the world, but those that do even a little bit of redstone farming will recognize this for what it can do. I mean, let's just run through some examples to illustrate this. The main thing I've already made is hooked up to my iron farm, automatically turning all the iron into iron blocks, effectively giving me 9 times the storage I had before. On top of that, I could also hook it up to the composter I have for the poppies to automatically make bone blocks, saving even more storage. For a gold farm, this could be used to turn the gold nuggets from zombified piglin into gold ingots, which could then either be turned into gold blocks, or the ingots could be given to piglin for automatic bartering, which would farm a ton of other items. The crafter could also be hooked up to a kelp farm, allowing you to automatically make blocks of dried kelp, which is helpful because it acts as a fuel source in furnaces, essentially meaning you can have infinite automatic fuel. Those are just some of the more general uses I can think of off the top of my head, but I've already seen some crazy things like setting up a system to craft every type of wood block. I absolutely love this feature, and I think it's the biggest redstone component they've added since hoppers back in 1.5. What I also love about the crafter though is just how it's implemented. It feels very Minecrafty. You can't just set it to a certain recipe, but rather you can only disable slots. So your goal is to put the items into hoppers in the correct order, which makes it a sort of interesting redstone puzzle for how to make more complex recipes. I really like that, as it avoids making this feature feel too much like a mod. I also just love how this block looks, and it can also be placed in so many orientations that it could honestly be a solid building block too. Really, the only nitpick I have for this is the crafting recipe. It makes sense, don't get me wrong, but I would have made it out of copper instead of iron just to give that ore a bit more and to line up with the rest of the update. That's not a real criticism though, the crafter is absolutely perfect. When they announced this, I instantly knew that it was going to be my #1 spot, because nothing else they could have possibly added had a chance to live up to how earth-shattering this feature is. So yeah, I think the crafter is easily the best feature of the Tricky Trials update. But anyways, that's it for this video. Do you all really love how the infested potion tastes and hate me for not ranking it higher? Let me know in the comments. I think this update was absolutely phenomenal, a huge step up from 1.20 and 1.19. I can't wait to play more of it once I'm done with this video. So anyways, dry bones for Smash, and I'll see you guys next time.